Hello and welcome to your one stop for vehicle repair, restoration, and everything automotive. This is Bird's Garage. Back on our 92 Mustang project car here, and we want to do some proactive things, try to get the temperature of the cooling system down a little bit more than what it is currently. We noticed driving around in traffic with the air conditioning on a hot summer day, temperature got a little bit higher than what we normally would like. Now, it's not going to overheat, wasn't anywhere near that point. So there's a lot of things we can do to drop the temperatures a little bit more. One of the big things you can do, and you're going to do this, is make sure you inspect the water pump. The water pump's got to be in good condition. If it's a little bit older, you might want to go ahead and change it. We've already done that with our car. We've got a newer 347 stroker engine we built and put in this car. So the coolant's new, the water pump's new. We have a new thermostat in the car as well. And when we did the work on the car, we put a lower temp thermostat in. We went with a 180. And remember, the temperature stamped on the thermostat is when it starts to open, not when it's fully open. So normally these cars, have a 195 thermostat. Most cars have a 195 to 205 thermostat. So we're putting a lower temp thermostat in there, getting it open a little bit faster. The car's going to run a little bit cooler. So right now we're going to jump under the hood. We're going to address the first major part in this cooling overhaul. To help drop the temps down in our cooling system, what we're going to do is we're going to change out this OE radiator for a new one that's much larger, and the construction is 100% aluminum. By doing so, what we're going to do is we're going to allow more coolant into the coolant system. That's going to increase the surface area at which the coolant has to act and the way it flows through the core tubes. And it's going to help really drop the temperatures down. I've put a lot of aluminum radiators in different cars from the OE ones, and it does a significant difference of dropping the temps down. Now, if you didn't want to go ahead and spend the money on an aluminum radiator, they can be pricing depending on your make and model. You can just go ahead and, let's say you have a car without air conditioning, you can go ahead and get an air conditioning OE radiator, and that's typically larger, and that will help as well. So now that we're going to start getting dirty, and we're going to go ahead and pull this radiator out. So the first thing we have to do then is drain all the antifreeze out of the radiator. And somewhere around the side tanks of the radiator, there's going to be a drain plug, and this is ours right here. So in our 92 Mustang here, it's actually located on the passenger side. So we're going to unturn this and let all the coolant drain out. Before you do this though, you want to take the radiator cap off because you need to get the coolant full, otherwise you're going to build up a vacuum on the inside. It's not going to go anywhere. So I've already done that. I'm going to go ahead and reach down, get this plug out. It probably won't come out. It's got a stop in it so it doesn't do that. It's starting to come. You need a lot of cardboard down because it's going to make a huge mess. Actually, an easier way to do this sometimes is to pull the radiator hose. Now our coolant's not that old, so we're actually going to reuse it, and I will show you a trick later on how to filter the antifreeze and put it back into the radiator. Now obviously we're going to need more than just what we took out. Again, we're putting a larger radiator in this car, so we're going to need more coolant than what we took out. So that's why then we found a really clean drain pan and we washed it all out on the inside first, and then we put it under the car. So if you're going to reuse the coolant, make sure you get a really clean pan in order to do that with. Okay, so I got most of the coolant out. When we take out the low radiator hose, all the other rest of the coolant's going to come out that we can't get out, opening up that drain cock. So what we're going to do now with these Fox Body Mustangs, we have to take this fan shroud out, and the easiest way I found to get the shroud out is you have to physically take the fan out. So we have to unbolt it here at the water pump and get rid of these two nuts, and at the bottom there's these two clips that just hold it against the radiator, and then we'll be able to pull both of these assemblies out. Then we can unbolt the radiator here, and then we can pull the radiator out. A big thing you got to be careful with doing this too in these Fox Body Mustangs is the coolant reservoir is attached to the fan shroud, so we have to make sure we can just disconnect the hose here, disconnect the wiring. In fact, we can just take this out now and put it aside, and then we can just pull all this out as an entire assembly. Just be careful when you pull it out, you don't spill coolant on you. This is a perfect time to inspect all your mounts, and with this car we've got 4 similar mounts that go on the radiator here, 2 top and 2 bottom. I don't see any dry rot or any other issues. If they were bad, you obviously want to replace it. So these look pretty good. So now I got everything disconnected and the radiator ready to pull out, but before I do that I'm going to put the radiator cap back in, because when I pull this out I'm going to tilt it towards me so all the coolant doesn't pour back onto the car, and if I tip it too much the coolant's going to come out of here and pour onto me and onto the floor. So got that back in, we'll slowly work it out. Also you want to put the drain cock back in as well so that doesn't come out in that area on you. And just simple as that, pull it right out and set it aside and drain the rest of the coolant out. So on today's show, this is our other big star. This is our brand new aluminum radiator we just picked up from LateModelRestoration.com, made by SVE. It's 100% aluminum construction, got much larger core tubes and side tanks, and that's going to help us flow a lot more volume. It's going to help bring our coolant temperatures down. So just looking side by side, you can see what a big difference this new radiator is versus the old one. So definitely going to be a big improvement. I went ahead and I added the speed clips and the retaining clips in the bottom for the fan shroud. So now we're going to go ahead and go ready and drop this radiator right into the car. So I noticed when I put this upper bracket on, it's actually a little too long, and so is the rubber inside for what they have here with this aluminum boss to put that in place. So what I ended up doing is I just took some pieces of 5/8 heater hose and I made a spacer. So I'm just going to put it here and then put the mount on and click the backside into place, and I'll bolt it down and it's not going to go anywhere. I'll do the same for the other side. Now the rest of it I'm just going to do reverse order. It's when I took it apart, button everything up, and then start filling it with coolant. So this coolant recovery bottle is probably one of those overlooked things in the maintenance of the entire vehicle. I've seen these things really dirty because people just don't change them. They'll even change the coolant in their entire cooling system, but they won't look at this bottle. And this bottle has a very important job, and what it does is it pulls coolant out when it needs to and fills into the regular cooling system of your car, and then when the pressures change and the temperature changes, it may push the coolant back into the bottle, so it's always constantly refilling and drawing back in and out. So it's a very, very important part of the cooling system. It needs to be flushed out and cleaned. So whenever I do a cooling system change in a car, I like to take the bottle completely out and just drain it all out. We've done this recently, so it shouldn't be too bad. It actually looks pretty good. And then I'll inspect inside, and this one actually does look like it had some dirt in here though, so I'm going to go ahead, take this bottle out, I'm going to take a garden hose, I'm going to blow it out the best I can. If have to, use bottle scrubbers, whatever you need to do, get this bottle completely clean, and this will ensure, besides changing your coolant and doing a cooling flush, you'll have an entire clean cooling system for many, many miles to go. So remember earlier I said you could reuse the antifreeze if it wasn't that old? Well, here's the trick I'm going to show you about filtering it. So if you take an old t-shirt like this and you put it in a funnel, kind of pack it in a little bit, that actually acts as a filter. So when you put your coolant in here, it filters all the dirt and everything that's in there, so you just have antifreeze. Now, even if you have the cleanest car, you imagine you get a lot of stuff in that antifreeze when you drain it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I'm going to go jump ahead and also mix up some new because we're going to need it, and then I'm going to put it in the car. And then make sure always if you top the radiator off, always fill up your radiator overflow tank as well. Now you can see here just from the little bit that I did that you can see some of the dirt Imagine what all the coolant's going to do once you pour it in there. You'd be surprised how much dirt is in there, even if you can't see it. Okay, so I ran out of my recycled antifreeze, and I'm ready to mix up some more. Now, you can buy antifreeze already mixed, but I don't do that because you can get a full gallon of concentrate, just about the same amount as you can for one that's already mixed. So by mixing this concentrate one with another empty gallon jug, you like getting 2 for the price of 1. So what I always do is I pour this amount of antifreeze up into this level, and I make them kind of even. So when I do that, I'll check it with a flashlight. Now look in here, and I'll see the level of where it's going, and then I'll go ahead and I'll measure that off and how much I poured in. If it's up 4 inches, then I'll put 4 inches of water. So I'll just make 2 marks wherever that level comes with a marker. If it comes right up to here, I'll do an equal level right there, and then I'll pour water, mix them up, and I can put them in the car. Now your cooling system is the most optimal if it's 50-50 ratio. So if it's 50% antifreeze, 50% water. So I'm going to go ahead now, do that, take care of that, finish filling up the rest of the radiator, and then we should be set with this job. So before I top the radiator off, I'm going to put this super coolant in by Hyperlube. Now one of the important things that this does is it helps lubricate the water pump, so it's going to improve its life. Secondly, it reduces the surface tension of water, and what that actually does is it helps improve the thermal efficiency of the coolant, thus dropping the temperatures down. So they claim you can get as much as 20% degrees temperature difference by putting this in. And 1 bottle, all it takes for this type of cooling system. So I'm going to put it in, top off the antifreeze, and I'm going to start up the vehicle and see where the level's at. Now what I'm going to do then is I want the car to run and hopefully get the thermostat to open, and by then you'll see the coolant level actually drop in the radiator. So then top it all off, and then you can go ahead and put the cap back on and ready to go. And again, don't forget your coolant reservoir. And after the car runs for a few cycles, you want to check that reservoir bottle. It's very important because if there are any spots in the cooling system that were low, it'll draw it out of that bottle, then it'll fill the system back up. Now why it's important to leave the cap off is we're going to try to get all the air out of the system, and by the water pump circulating the coolant and let the heat make it rise a little bit, it should do a good job of taking all the air out of the system. So now that we got the radiator all finished and out of the way, what we're going to do now is we're going to help improve the airflow into the condenser and to the radiator while the car is moving. Now there's a big hole in here, all in this area between where the front fascia is and the core support, and besides that looking pretty ugly, and there's a good space in there, and you can see a lot of other weird stuff going on, we're going to just cover all this up with this kit we got from Scott Rod. And by doing that then, so not only is it going to look better, it's going to help direct that airflow down around and into the radiator. Now these are shrouds around your radiator, and those are there for a purpose that help direct flow into there as well. So you always look and make sure. Some people just throw those little shrouds out. They're pieces of plastic or metal, depending on what kind of car you have and what year and how old the car is. So you always want to make sure those are there. If they're gone, replace them. Now the way this kit's designed is you're actually supposed to use these rivets and drill it into the core support, but you have to actually strip everything out first, and they have some markers. They have some pre-markers here where you can drill out for these spots, but there's some other stuff in here that they haven't allowed for that are on my car. So what I think I'm going to do, instead of trying to use the rivets where possible, I'm just going to utilize some of the holes that are already in the core support, and also the radiator bracket that goes on top, and that'll help hold that down as well. I'm going to utilize these holes, and I'm just going to use like a 1/4-20 tap and drill. I'm going to drill it first, then tap it, and I'm just going to be able to use a bolt in there instead of that rivet. So if I ever want to take it back apart again, I can get it out really easily without having to drill a bunch of rivets out and re-rivet the entire panel assembly. So good news, I just got back from a cruise and our temperatures are significantly lower than they were before. So that wraps up another fantastic show. As always, thanks for watching. Good luck with your projects, and remember, it's not a rewarding day unless you get dirty.